Should I start? Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we are going to discuss A House for Mr. Biswas by V.S. Naipal, right? And it was published in the year 1961. Do you know a bit about V.S. Naipal or about the title? Any idea?
Sir, this story might be about Mr. Biswas living in some other area rather than his homeland, and he is craving to have a house in his homeland.
Okay, okay. If you haven't studied the book and you are guessing this, I guess you are close. But if you
Sir,
have,
no, I made assignment of this related to this question, so I am recalling that thing, sir. Actually, I haven't
okay,
gone through it.
fine, fine, fine. So today we are going to look at A House for Mr. Biswas. It is written by V.S. Naipal. He is a Nobel laureate, and I should first start with author biography of V.S. Naipal. His full name is Sir Bidyadhar Suraj Prasad Naipal, and he was born in Trinidad in 1932. You know Trinidad? It's a small island in West Indies. You understand West Indies, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. His parents were the children of the indentured servants who had left India to labor on the cocoa plantations of Trinidad, which had become a British colony uh, in the early 19th century. Much like the characters in the novel, who are loosely based on his parents, Naples' mother was from a wealthy family and who housed him and his siblings for much of their early life in Port of Spain. Like Anand, the son of Mr. Bishwas, Naples won a scholarship from the government of Trinidad, which provided a university education at an institution anywhere in the British Commonwealth. This allowed Naples to attend prestigious Oxford University. And after graduating from Oxford, Naples moved to London permanently and began to write stories and novels about life in the Caribbean. A House for Mr. Biswas is Naples' fourth novel and was published in 1961 when he was only 29. It was his breakout work that led to widespread acclaim. He spent the following years traveling and writing several fiction and non fiction works, many dealing with the realities of post colonialism. He won the Booker Prize for In a Free State in 1971, a work comprised of three short stories interconnected by a common theme of freedom. He was knighted in 1989 and won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2001. I believe you understand what is knighthood in UK.
No, sir.
Like in India, we have Bharat Ratna, right? In UK, there is a specific special award. Uh, if somebody is conferred upon that award, then he will be called Sir. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
this idea of Sir V.S. Naipal, okay, actually because of that. So like Andy Murray, the famous mm, uh, tennis player, he is also being called like Sir Andy Murray, right? So that is if somebody is knighted or somebody gets the knighthood from the Queen or from the British Parliament, you get the title Sir. Okay, that is technically and historically, kind of the real reason behind this kind of salutations, or you can say uh, the prefix before anybody's name, which is only specific to UK and the knighthood. It's not about general thing in all over the world. Okay. So the text we are dealing with today is, A House for Mr. Biswas, written by V.S. Naipaul. It was published in 1961. The genre is historical fiction, and it is a type is novel. And perspective of the narrator is House for Mr. Biswas is told in the third person omniscient point of view through the perspective of Mr. Biswas. Naipaul's novel is told primarily in the past tense. And about the title references Mohun Biswas, the central character of this particular text or novel. Mohan Biswas's lifelong quest to own a home of his own, separate from the Tulsi family. I'll talk about Tulsi family in due course of this lecture. The character of Mr. Biswas is loosely based on the author's father, Siparsad Naipal, who, like Mr. Biswas, rose from relatively humble circumstances to become a writer for a Trinidadian newspaper and also died quite young. So that is about the title. And you also have to look at the background or the historical context of this particular text. Should I speak a bit about this historical context?
Yes, sir, you may.
Yeah. I mean, in internet or in various, yes, in internet and in on in other various sources, you have multiple interpretations and multiple related information available in terms of the background or the historical context. But what I have collated from various sources, these 4 or 5 issues which you should look at before you actually get into the text. Okay. Trinidad and Tobago is actually a kind of a place where the place has seen many colonizers like the Spanish, the French, the Dutch, and because of its fertile soil and ability to support colonialism and agricultural exploitation. However, it was the British who invaded in 1797 and became the island's final colonial powers as part of the Treaty of Amiens in 1802. 02 means 02. This treaty between the major European power of the age, Great Britain, France, Spain, and Netherlands, halted European hostilities for a time during the Napoleonic Wars. It also helped establish Great Britain as the lead colonizer on the island of Trinidad. The 19th century saw a steady stream of immigration from Great Britain to Trinidad as many English planters sought fortune in the agricultural colonies. By 1898, the British had also taken over the neighboring island of Tobago, declaring it a ward. They were eager to extract the rich resources of both islands. Slave labor provided the bulk of the human capital needed to exploit these resources, predominantly sugar cane and cocoa, which had become a highly valuable cash crop. However, in large part to an active abolition movement, England outlawed slavery in all of its territories in 1833. Though those currently enslaved in Trinidad were expected to work apprenticeships for 6 years. I mean, you might be asking yourself why I'm telling you so much about Trinidad and Tobago, but you have to make the connection. What is the connection? Naples' grandparents were some of these indentured servants who came from India to labor in Trinidad. The experiences of his grandparents and his own adventures growing up in Trinidad provided a real life context for the novel. Further, Naples was interested in the legacy of European conquest and colonialism and how it impacted those who experienced it, like his own family. In addition to his fiction work, Naples also published several non-fiction works on this topic. I mean, mostly his works have been centered around Trinidad and Tobago. Then the next one is the Indian experience in Trinidad. So you have to make a connection. Why these many Indians are having Indian background. Many people are going to Trinidad and Tobago. Widespread poverty and few opportunities for upward mobility drove many Indians to migrate to Trinidad as indentured servants. I mean, maid servants. Many were young people without families, and most about 85% were Hindu. The system of indenture varied over time, but the term indenture was typically 10 years. At the end of the indenture, the individual had the option for a free return trip to India, or in some cases, a small land grant if the individual decided to remain in Trinidad. So that means a kind of contract for 5 to 10 years or 10 years to stay there to act as a maid servant. And after your tenure of kind of 10 years, you can get a small piece of land to stay there. Life as an indentured servant was hard. Sickness, mortality rates were high. Rules and regulations were also strictly followed, with migrant workers confined to the estates upon which they worked for most of the term of their servitude. They could even be charged with crimes if they were found to be away from the estate without permission. Furthermore, conditions from estate to estate varied, and government oversight on the treatment of indentured servants by wealthy planters were often quite limited. Still, most Indians who immigrated to Trinidad as indentured servants remained on the island even after their term of servitude was over. Many of them became farmers themselves by either purchasing land from the crown or being granted it through their service. At the turn of the century, Indo Trinidadians began handling more sugarcane in comparison to the real native persons of Trinidad and Tobago. Some historians estimate they came to control at least 50% of the production, sugar canes. Okay, most Indian migrants were Hindu, as described in the novel as well. There was some degree of kind of syncretism as Indo-Trinidadians became exposed to both the Christianity brought by the missionaries and the native religious practices of the island's Afro-Trinidadian population. Still, as the novel attests, many Indians kept to isolated cultural enclaves and at times had tense relationship with other religious and cultural groups. Sorry. Am I going very fast or it's okay?
It's okay, sir.
Okay. I hope my voice is loud and clear, so you can make distinctions between my sentences and headings, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Excuse me. Yeah. Written in 1961. Then we'll talk about colonialism. How colonialism playing a part in House for Mr. Biswas. It was written in 1961, obviously, and in some ways, it was a statement about the third world and its heritage of colonialism. At the time of penning the novel, a movement for independence was already growing in Trinidad. That means when the novel was being written, at that point in time, there was a kind of freedom movement in Trinidad, which would successfully win independence from Great Britain in 1962. The book got published in 1961, and Trinidad got independence in 1962. Can you make the connection that in the first class we talked about Kenyan independence, in the second class we talked about, we discussed related to, we discussed something related to Nigerian independence. Do you remember?
Yes, sir.
And now we are talking of Trinidad's independence struggle, and it got independence in 1962. So it was mostly or roughly around the same time most of these literature or the body of work was were produced. Okay. Furthermore, the 1950s and 60s were an era of decolonization throughout the world. That means everywhere in the world, there was a kind of freedom movement, and people were fighting against the colonial forces. Encouraged by the success of the Indian movement, which finally won independence from Great Britain in 1947, many other former colonial possessions also won independence during the post World War II decades. Some interpretations of House for Mr. Biswas criticize the novel for being more pro colonialism than anti colonialism, since it is British Crown primarily through its awarding of educational scholarships that seemingly allowed for most of the upward mobility in Trinidadian society. However, other interpretations see the work as a critique of colonialism, since the protagonist, you understand protagonist? The central character or the hero, okay? Though able to achieve some modicum of success, it is never truly able to rise. I mean, is never truly able to rise above the socio-economic divisions of the Trinidadian society as a whole. So, if you get a question around colonialism regarding House for Mr. Biswas, you have to correlate and connect all these dots. There is also another background study you need to make, or you need to undertake to understand this novel properly, about Hinduism and the caste system. I hope most of us are Hindu, so we understand a bit about Hinduism and caste system. But nevertheless, there is no harm if you read something about that. Hinduism is a very old religion, of course it is, reliant on ritual and adherence to certain traditions, making rites of passage and annual events. Many Hindus, like the Tulsis, allow or they follow certain dietary standards. Of particular importance to a house for Mr. Biswas is the notion of caste or one's social position within the Hindu worldview. Hinduism has four castes based on one's duty to society and occupation. From the highest to the lowest, these castes are Brahmin, priests or teachers, Kshatriyas, warriors and rulers, Sudras, that means laborers, or Dalits or outcasts, street sweepers or latrine cleaners, and something like that. Since Mr. Biswas is of the Brahmin caste, he is a suitable husband for Sama. Sama is our a lady character, I mean, who is playing Mr. Biswas's wife, who is presumably also of the Brahmin caste. It is reasonable to assume that during the time in which the novel is set, few Brahmins were living in Trinidad, since it drew laborers as indentured servants who most likely came from the lower castes. Work, caste, and status are all entwined in the world of Mr. Biswas. On many occasions, there are references to crab catchers, who are the lowest of the low, only slightly above laborers, who work on the sugarcane plantations. The assumptions here, in line with the Hindu belief, some Hindu beliefs, that these individuals born of a low caste and are doing the work they were born to do. So that is the danger of the caste system. Mind you, when I'm telling you the caste system, it doesn't mean that I support the caste system. Because in the context of the text or novel, I need to tell you this. That's why I told you this. Did you get my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we'll go to the character map. You understand character map?
Sir, character map means their character to for the plot.
No, the slide which is in front of you right now, it is called character map. I mean, I have, of course, it is collected from internet and other sources, but this character map is very interesting, and it's also a very good way to make you remember different characters in a particular novel, and you have to correlate and kind of make the connections between these many characters. Okay.
Sir, it is showing the relationship of the characters. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it is also showing that how they are connected, and how who are the central characters and who are not, and uh, what connections you can make later. But if you remember this map this map, it will be far more easier for you to do character appreciations. Okay. So at the center, you look that Mr. Biswas is there. His name is Mohun Biswas. He is a father, he is a husband, and he is a journalist. Ready? You got that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Then you have Mrs. Sama, wife of Mr. Biswas, mother and a daughter of Mrs. Tulsi. Okay. Then you have Mrs. Tulsi. She is a matriarch. She is mother to Shama. Okay. That means she is mother-in-law to Mr. Biswas. Then you have Ajodha and Tara. They are wealthy aunt and uncle to Mr. Biswas. Then Savi, she is the daughter of Mr. Biswas. Then you have Anand, son of Mr. Biswas. Then you have another uncle of Sama, that is Set. He is a patriarch. And there is another Owad, new patriarch. He is a brother of Sama. So these are the basically these are the main characters of House for Mr. Biswas. If you remember these 3, 6, 8 characters, it will be far more easier for you to make the connections between character appreciation, or to understand all the characters as a whole. Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you keep this map in your mind, you can always remember this story pretty easily. You can always remember all the questions and answers. You can always go back and back and forth in terms of your understanding of House for Mr. Biswas.
Sir, is it necessary to draw this particular plot diagram or character map in the examination if the question is asked related to
No, no,
House of
no,
Mr.
no, no,
Biswas?
no. It is only for your understanding.
Okay,
It is
okay, sir.
only for your understanding different characters and their stories, as well as their connection to other characters. Okay. It's like we do it to convince ourselves. We do it, or you do it to convince your memory that these are the characters. Examination is literature examination. You don't have to draw any diagrams, and unless and until the question specifically asks you to do that. So you don't have to worry about this. This is only for your benefit. I have done this. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
I think it will give you a clearer picture instead of reading and writing all the characters and the roles in terms of House for Mr. Biswas.
Yes, sir. It's good for mind mapping, sir.
Yeah, mind mapping. Yes, because that will help you to compartmentalize all the information whichever is being provided to you. Sometimes what happens, that if you get a lot of information together, it is very difficult for your brain to process it, and if it cannot process it, then you cannot remember it. So first you need to give it a chance, that okay, this is the data I'm putting in. I'm just giving it. So it is up to you to process it, and how to process you, it is your lookout. It's not my problem. I'm just giving an example. Okay. Okay, we'll talk about individual characters, and then we'll go to the kind of detailed analysis of the plot, then we'll go to other aspects like symbols and kind of other things, themes and other things. So the central character is Mr. Biswas, right? Mr. Biswas is born unlucky, and this lack of luck follows him from birth and even leads to the death of his father. However, he doesn't let this stop him. He is in many ways like the biblical character of Job, for whom all that can go wrong does go wrong. He is in a mostly unhappy marriage to a woman that he didn't know prior to marrying, but over time he finds joy in the accomplishments of his two eldest children. His lifelong goal is to purchase a house of his own, which is rare on the small, mostly impoverished island of Trinidad. Though he loses sight of the goal at times and faces many setbacks, he does eventually purchase a house and become head of his own household. I'll tell you more about Mr. Biswas when we get into the storyline or the plot. Right now, I'm just giving you an introductory comment about all the characters. Is that okay with all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Then you have Sama. Shama is an attractive young woman, marries Mr. Biswas when she is only 16. Their marriage is a troubled one from the beginning. As Mr. Biswas has little to offer her, over time she matures and even at times shows pride in her husband's journalistic accomplishments. The marriage between Shama and Mr. Biswas, quite shaky at first, becomes more stable, though not necessarily happy, as the couple ages. Then you have Shabi. Sabi is the daughter. Sabi changes greatly over the course of the novel. There is a struggle between Mr. Biswas and Shama for control of Sabi, even from birth. It seems as though Shama and Tulsi's, Tulsi's means kind of in-laws family of, Mr. Biswas, who name her, will retain control over her upbringing. She spends much of her childhood at Hanuman House. Hanuman House is the house of Mrs. Tulsi and her other family members, and is heavily influenced by her aunts and uncles and cousins in her youth. That means Sabi is being influenced by aunts and uncles and cousins in her youth because she has been staying there with them. However, as she grows up, she realizes the accomplishments of her father and becomes a full-fledged member of the Biswas family, even spending significant time with her father in his final days. So that is Sabi for you. Then you have Anand. Unlike Sabi, Anand seems to have a deep love for and understanding of his father right from the start. Though the two quarrel and Mr. Biswas even beats him, Anand sticks by him during his darkest times. He is the first member of the Biswas family to show academic promise, and he wins a college scholarship. Sadly, Anand is unable to return home to see his father prior to his death, which suggests in some ways that even though his opportunities are the result of his father's insistence on his education, he now has a life of his own that doesn't include his parents and siblings. So that is Anand for you. Then you have Mrs. Tulsi, the matriarch, the mother-in-law of Mr. Biswas. Mrs. Tulsi begins as a very strong figure and controlling much of what happens at Hanuman House. The Tulsi's store and all the Tulsi properties with her brother-in-law Seth. She is very indulgent towards her sons, whom Mr. Biswas believes are treated like gods. As the widow of a great Pandit, she is also very serious about the practice of Hinduism. Though sometimes she incorporates Christian elements into her rituals, as the novel progresses, she ages and becomes less and less of a daily force, though her word is still followed by all. So that was the type of persona of Mrs. Tulsi. Then you have Seth. Like Mr. Biswas, Seth marries into the Tulsi family. However, the death of Mrs. Tulsi's husband, he sees the opportunity to take control of the Tulsi family. He is a wealthy planter who owns many properties. It is Seth who makes many of the decisions about where Mr. Biswas and Sama are to live after their first marriage. Toward the end of the novel, a rift forms between he and the Tulsis, and Owad takes over as the head of the family. So that is about Seth. Okay. And there are some minor characters as well. Who can tell me what are the differences between a major character and a minor character?
So major characters influence the protagonist in a greater manner compared to the minor characters. Matlab they are more closely knitted to the protagonist.
Yeah, that's one, but the protagonist is also a major character, right? Are you getting my point? So the protagonist
So
and
he's the
other characters who contribute in certain sense to the development of the narrative of the story, they should be called as the major characters, right?
Dinesh bhai ko
yes,
bula.
sir.
Am I correct? Yes. So you have Mr. Biswas, you have Sama, you have Sabi, you have Anand, you have Mrs. Tulsi, you have Seth, you have Owad. Then you have Tara. Tara is Bipti's sister and Mr. Biswas's aunt. So who is Bipti? If you would have read the novel, you would have understood who is Bipti. Tara is Bipti's sister and Mr. Biswas's aunt. So Tara, I have already told you, wealthy aunt and uncle. And Bipti sister means who is Bipti? Tell me, make the connection. Who can tell me who is Bipti? Bipti is the mother of Mr. Mohun Biswas. Okay. Am I correct? Or
Yes, sir. Sir, I didn't get the characters who are related to Mr. Biswas.
sorry. Come again, come again.
Sir, actually, I didn't completely get the characters related to Mr. Biswas. So I'm unable to find out the relationship.
Okay. I guess it is crystal clear on your slides that Mr. Mohan Biswas and Sama,
Yes,
their
sir.
spouse. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. It is clear that Shama is Mr. Biswas' wife. Okay, but
Mhm.
Mrs. Tulsi, that matriarchy, whose mother is she?
She is mother of Shama.
Okay, she is mother of Shama. Then who is Mr. Biswas' mother?
She is Bipti. I mean, it is not in this map, but since she is a minor character, she doesn't have much role to play in the novel. So I haven't added her in the map. But
So
Bipti is Mr.
Tara is
Biswas'
Masi of
mother.
Mr. Biswas, like Ajodha and Tara, they are Mausi of Mr. Biswas, like mother's sister. Mr.
Yeah,
Biswas' mother's sister is.
yeah, exactly. Okay.
Hmm.
So you have Tara. Tara is Bipti's sister and Mr. Biswas's aunt. And Ajodha is Tara's husband and uh, you know, mm, uncle to Mr. Biswas, right? Then you have Raghu, another minor character. Raghu is Mr. Biswas's father, who dies in what he believes is an attempt to rescue his son from drowning. I'll tell you more about that. Bipti is Mr. Biswas's mother. Then Prasad is Mr. Biswas's older brother or elder brother, you can say. Then Pratap is another Mr. Biswas's brothers, another brother. Yeah. Then you have Dehuti. Dehuti is Mr. Biswas's older sister who runs off from Tara's estate and marries a yard boy. These are minor characters. You don't have to remember everything, but for your understanding, I'm just telling you everything from major to minor, right? Then you have Dhari. Dhari is the next door neighbor of Raghu and Bipti Biswas. Then Lakham. Lakham is another neighbor of Bipti and Raghu. Mind you, Bipti and Raghu are parents to Mr. Biswas. Then you have Jairam. Jairam is the Pandit that Tara sends Mr. Biswas to train under. Okay. Then you have Ramchand. Ramchand is Dehuti's husband. Sekhar is Owad's brother. Chinta is Shama's sister and Govind's wife. Govind. Govind is Chinta's abusive husband. Then you have Hari. Hari is the Tulsi household's Pandit. Then you have Pankaj Raj. Pankaj Raj is a member of Hindu reform movement in Trinidad. Then Misir. Misir is a friend of Mr. Biswas. Sumati. Sumati is one of the Sama's sisters who beats her son violently for ruining items in Mr. Biswas's store. These are minor characters, you don't have to worry. There are many more like Moti, Mungru, Sibaram, Maina, Rabidat, Jagadat, Tarjan, Mr. Brunette, Basdai, Mrs. and Mr. Turtle, Bidyadhar, Miss Logi, Alec, Lal, Kamala. There are so many characters. Okay, you just have to focus on the major characters.
Excuse me, sir. Sir,
Yes.
here Awad is written new patriarch who is related to, I think, Shama. Sir, who is he?
Yes. Okay. Uh, Awad is brother of Shama. Okay. Seth is uncle of Shama. Okay. After Mrs. Tulsi's demise, or when she is actually not taking care of everything in the family, then Seth assumes the role of the patriarch in the family, in Tulsi family, right? And after Seth, Awad takes the role. So that's the story basically of Tulsi family, okay, or Hanuman house. Hanuman house is the name of the house, and Tulsi family means Mr. and Mrs. Tulsis are there, and with them others are also staying. And I'll tell you more about them once I read the summary in a nutshell. Okay,
Okay, sir.
okay. If you look at the whole, okay. If you look at the whole plot, a house for Mr. Biswas is set in Trinidad and Tobago and begins sometimes after the close of World War One. The fictional biography spans the entire life of Mohan Biswas, whose life ends in the early 1950s at the close of World War II. It is a fictional biography that traces the movements of a single man and his immediate family from place to place throughout the island of Trinidad, often alongside the family of his wife and the Tulsis. Are you getting my point? Who can tell me how many parts the novel is divided into? Any idea? Have you read it or have you read something about this particular text?
No, sir.
No, it is
Yes.
divided into two parts. Okay, in part one, we get the information about the early life of Mr. Mohan Biswas, then the Tulsis, and in part two, we discuss. I mean, we get the information regarding career option or career graph of Mr. Biswas, then his stay at port of Spain, then his later life. Okay, and for your understanding, you should remember that Mohan Biswas is born very unlucky or very unlucky circumstances. The Pandit, I mean the astrologer, like all of us do let do invite astrologers when there is a new baby is born, and we sometimes what happens, we also ask him or her regarding the future prospects of our child or kids. Do you know that? Does that happen at your home?
Sir, are we talking about Jyotish who tell the future of the child and how is everything will be?
Yes. Does that happen at your home?
No, sir.
No,
I
sir,
was
not.
not.
Okay. I mean, when Mohan Biswas was born and the Jyotish was called upon, and he was very skeptical about the future of Mr. Mohan Biswas, and he suggested that his name should start with M, or kind of the kind of and he said he's a very unlucky guy, and he will have 6 fingers, or he has actually at that point in time he had 6 fingers, but later he lost one finger, just like that, and it was considered that he is kind of very unlucky. Okay, are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Am I visible to you right now?
No, sir.
Okay, okay, no problem. In part one, Mohan Biswas is born as very unlucky and under unlucky circumstances. Okay, and he is born the wrong way, like meaning he was a breech. It was a kind of breech birth, and he is born with 6 fingers. The Pandit or the Hindu wise man predicts that Mr. Biswas will be unlucky and that he should be kept away from the natural water, like ponds, like stream, like lakes, like ocean. Okay. Uh, he is to be kept away from his father for 21 days and then only looked upon through a mirror. The Jyotish told them that he has to kept apart from his father for 21 days and he should be looked upon through a mirror only, which is believed will mitigate some of the bad luck his birth might bring. So that was the kind of unlucky, kind of situation when Mr. Biswas was, kind of born, right? Mr. Biswas's mother Bipti and father Raghu follow the advice of the Pandit, and things seem to be going well until Mr. Biswas, a young boy, is given the task of caring for a calf belonging to Dhari, the Biswas's next door neighbor. After Mr. Biswas loses the calf, he fears he will get in trouble, so he hides from everyone. Concerned that his son has ventured into the forbidden stream or drowned, Raghu dive into the river and to search for Mr. Biswas. But Raghu also himself didn't know how to swim. In his effort to find his son, Raghu himself drowns in the stream. Did you get that?
Yes, sir.
So this is how his luck unfolded, and this is how he was branded unlucky from day one. This
But sir, this
suggests,
is the circumstances situation, na? So
sorry,
I think, sir, they branded Mr. Biswas as an unlucky person, but this is a circumstances situation at which
I
he.
understand that is circumstances, but that's what the Pandit told, that this boy will bring a lot of misfortune to the family, and he himself is very unlucky. He will remain unlucky, and that is how the story started. And incidentally or accidentally, kind of because of this mischief, he wanted to hide, but his father was very desperate, and like every loving or doting father, he went and searched for his son. When he didn't find his son, so he thought, because he doesn't know how to swim, maybe he might have drowned. So he got into the river, he dived into the river, but unfortunately he died because he himself didn't know how to swim. So that's how the tragic unfolding of different situations or circumstances in his life. Whether it was circumstances or it was pure luck, we don't know. but circumstances are also in a way of looking at luck, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This causes this family to break up. I mean, Biswas's family. Mr. Biswas's two older brothers, Prasad and Pratap, okay, are sent to work on a sugar estate, while he and his mother moved to a home on the estate owned by his aunt Tara and her husband Ajodha. Are you clear? Prasad and Pratap were sent to work on a sugar estate, okay, and this Mr. Biswas went to Tara and Ajodha, where his sister is to work as a servant. Because Mr. Biswas is of the Brahmin caste, he is sent to, or he is sent by Tara to study to become a Hindu Pandit under the tutelage of the Pandit Jairam. So Pandit Jairam is, kind of a very scholarly man. Is eventually kicked out by Jairam for throwing a towel that has excrement on it inadvertently onto a tree, that flowers of which are used for Hindu rituals. Very typical of Hindu Brahmins, okay? With due respect to all the Brahmins present here, okay? This leads to his placement with Ajodha's brother, Bhandant, who owns a rum shop. You understand rum? Liquor, right? Bhandant accuses Mr. Biswas of theft, and although he did not commit this crime, he is once again left without a vocation. So look at the chronology of the events. Are you getting my point? First, he was born with six fingers. Then the Pandit told everybody that he is unlucky. Then he did a mischief with with the calf, and because he wanted to hide that mischief, so he hides himself, and accidentally his father drowns because his father wanted to find his son. But then Prasad and Pratap were sent to work on sugar estate, and he was sent to Pandit Jairam. But Pandit Jairam believed that this guy is good for nothing, so he is not going to be a good scholarly man or Hindu Pandit. So he was also very fed up with Mr. Biswas. Okay, so even after that, I mean, whatever Mr. Biswas touched, it turned out to be something else instead of gold. Okay, or it was not successful. When he went to Ajodha and his place, and he was also accused of theft, and he was left without any work. So this is about his first stint as an unlucky guy. What happens next? Then Mr. Biswas soon discovers a talent for lettering or painting signs and meets the Tulsis. So Mr. Biswas, went to the Tulsi family, and he was on an assignment of painting job, but accidentally or in do or how to approach things from here on. But the Tulsi family, they are very clever. They found a suitable, kind of guy who is, uh, ready to, marry one of their daughters. So they were pretty happy, and they almost made Mr. Biswas to marry Sama even without thinking or even without planning, because they wanted a son-in-law, and son-in-law who will work for them, who will stay with them, and who will compromise his identity and his own, what can I say, like. He will accept what the Tulsis are saying, and that's how he landed with the Tulsis. And later his suffering began, and his identity was almost kind of lost in translation. I mean, he was always after creating a particular sense of security, sense of identity, sense of agency in himself. But he found out that if I stay with the Tulsis, then I don't know what will happen to me. Because if you look at the complex kind of chemistry between Shama and Mr. Biswas, you'll find that Sama is kind of very complex a lady. Whenever she is with her own family, she behaves or treats Mr. Biswas differently. But when she is alone with Mr. Biswas, she is a different lady. So we'll discuss more about their complex chemistry in due course of time. Are you following what I'm trying to tell you? Ladies and gentlemen, am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Shall I continue?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the name of the house is Hanuman House, and in the they hire him for the job. After seeing their daughter Sama working in their store, he expresses an interest in her. That Mrs. Tulsi, her mother, and Seth, her brother-in-law, readily accept, since he is of the Brahmin caste. So Mr. Biswas then marries Sama and moves into Hanuman House with the large Tulsi family. Mr. Biswas struggles to get along with the extended family and wants to venture out on his own. I mean, after some time, he realized that, if I stay here, I'll be suffocated. I shouldn't stay here. But he had no option, so he had to wait for his turn. So, what happened next? Tulsi allow he and Sama to move to a settlement known as the Chage, where they will run a store owned by the Tulsis. So temporarily they were allowed. I mean, both the husband and the wife were allowed to, kind of to stay uh, separately from the Tulsis, because they were to run a particular store which was owned by the Tulsi family. I mean, you might be wondering that, I mean, why this Tulsi family was more than happy to welcome uh, Mr. Biswas to their fold, because they wanted somebody to take care of the business, and they wanted somebody from Brahmin caste, and say they got Mr. Biswas ready-made in a package deal, and that's why they were pretty happy to welcome him to their fold. Otherwise, there were that they didn't have any intention to just offer their daughter to somebody or anybody, something like that. Are you following the reasoning behind Tulsi family's welcoming nature to Mr. Biswas in the initial days? Ladies and gentlemen, are you following whatever I am inferring to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. While Mr. Biswas enjoys running the store at first, he eventually fails in his venture as he overextends store credit and becomes involved in a bad business deal to collect outstanding debts. So he failed at the beginning. Then when he went to Pandit Jairam, he failed. Then when he wanted to run the rum shop with Bandant, he also failed. And now in this new store, he is also a failure. Okay. The Tulsis then move Mr. Biswas and Shama, who now have a daughter named Sabi, to live in barracks among plantation workers in the town of Greenvale, where Mr. Biswas is to work as an overseer on the estate owned by Seth. Though he is unhappy in his marriage and resented by the workers, Mr. Biswas hires a man to begin building a house at Greenvale. So finally, Mr. Biswas is getting a shot at creating or owning his own house. That will be for him and his immediate family, which now includes a son named Anand. Okay. Unfortunately, though he moves into the house, it is nearly destroyed by a storm. And Mr. Biswas becomes increasingly depressed and disenchanted with his life. Fearing uh, that his depression has become extreme and that he might harm himself or others, the Tulsis once again bring Mr. Biswas back to Hanuman house to recover. So he was back to square one. I mean, whoever he wanted to avoid, he was back again with them, all of them, in fact, in the Hanuman house. Now, the father of four children, he recovers and becomes determined to make something his life independent of his in-laws. So again, his determination was very, kind of strong, and he wanted to leave this in-laws family, and he wanted to create a sense of his own identity and own sense of being, own agency, and his own selfhood. And he wanted to achieve something, and his one of his main achievements could be or would be what he was after all his life, was to own a house of his own. Now we enter the part 2, where we discuss about uh, uh, Mr. Biswas's career graph and his futuristic or other future endeavors, whether they were successful or not. Let's see how it goes. Are you following the story? I mean, clearly, all of you.
Yes, sir.
Is it difficult or like very complex?
A little bit hard to understand, sir.
Okay, let me revise that for you. We have Mr. Biswas, and he was termed as unlucky from the beginning, and he was born with 6 fingers. One day, he lost another, one of his fingers. Then he becomes normal, but because of his bad luck and perceived bad luck, which was pronounced by the pandit, I mean, in the beginning, in his childhood days, he creates a lot of nuisances, mischiefs, and in such circumstances, he wanted to hide his mischief. And in the process of searching him, his father lost his life by drowning because he didn't know how to swim, but he wanted to save his son. Okay, and in a nutshell, if I tell you that Mr. Biswas has tried his hand at many things in life, but in most of the cases he was an absolute failure. And accidentally he went for a painting assignment to Tulsi family. He saw Sama, and he thought, this is the girl I should marry. Then the Tulsis got to know that they are in love, so they happily accepts them. But their intention behind accepting Mr. Biswas was all about because they wanted a son-in-law who could look after their business. And whatever business opportunities Mr. Biswas got, he again became an absolute failure in that. And as fate would have him, or circumstances would have him, that in many circumstances he is an acute kind of failure. And towards the end of part 1, he wants to have a life of his own. He wants to have an identity of his own. And we move into the career options of next career option of Mr. Biswas. I hope I have clarified some things, right?
Yes, sir. Now it is clearer.
Okay, you just have to listen very patiently, and you'll have to follow the storyline. The problem with all of you, I mean, I'm not blaming you. Once you read the story, or you see a video, or any kind of summary, you will have a kind of skeleton in your mind of what we are discussing, right? If you are exposing yourself for the very first time to a particular text, then it will be difficult. It might be difficult to anybody. Okay. So for example, tomorrow we are supposed to look at Derek Walcott and Kamau Brathwaite poems, Caribbean poems. So if you do not read the text of any poems of Caribbean poems, or Walcott or Brathwaite, it will be highly or increasingly difficult for you to uh, you know to understand what I'll be teaching you tomorrow. Right? So that's why I would suggest all of you to go through the poetries or the poems or texts whatever available with you, or if possible, I'll forward some poems today itself to help you, so that when I discuss a particular aspect of Derek Walcott or Kamau Brathwaite, you will understand and you will make the connection. You will connect the dots. Okay, so some kind of homework is also expected out of you, and I know maybe most of you are doing jobs, and it is difficult to keep a balance between job and your studies and your family life. But having said that, we have to do it. We have no option. Am I making myself very clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I hope I hope you won't mind me asking that
Okay, sir,
all
no
of you.
problem. We'll try to do that.
Yes, Rohit. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, we'll try to do that.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
So Rohit, are you a student or you are working somewhere?
Yeah, I'm working only, sir. But what to do? I was not able to get the proper time. No, that's why.
Okay, no. So this is your first class with all of us, right?
Yes, within the first only I went into the mail and I saw that, and just I have joined.
Okay, okay, no problem. Whatever you have missed, that's okay. But you can attend the future classes. We have three more classes to go. I believe one is tomorrow, the day after. Then we have last one on 27th.
So
Salman,
what is the
am I
time? What
correct?
is the timing, sir? What is the timing?
6 to 8 every day, every
Six to
evening.
eight every day.
I mean, I
Okay.
mean, I mean, the time there are two classes scheduled for. One is tomorrow, one another one is the day after tomorrow, and the last one for MEG-8 is 27th, I believe. Salman, if you
26,
can
26,
correct
sir.
me if I'm wrong.
26, sir. Tuesday.
26th.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
But I guess there was a revised timeline which suggested 27th. I'll have to cross check. Okay.
Okay, okay, sir. I will check in the website.
Yes, yes, please do. I mean, I have that official email from RC, and I'll make sure that we stick to the current correct timetable.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. So all of you are doing, I assume, doing jobs, I assume, or some of you are only students or still pursuing, studying only.
Sir,
Anyone?
I'm doing job.
Supriya, you're doing a job, right?
Yes, sir, I'm a teacher.
Okay. In school and mass education department, government of Odisha.
No, sir. Actually, by professionally, I'm a civil engineer, but due to
Okay.
some circumstances, I left my profession in state government job, and then I continue B.Ed. And now, right
Okay.
now, I'm working as a B.Ed first year. I just completed. B.Ed second year is going on, and right now, I'm working in a school for my internship.
Okay. I understand. No problem.
Personally, I'm a student only.
Okay, no issue. I mean, student or teacher or doing both, it's fine because I may be teaching you right now, but I'm also a student in many aspects of my career. So, all of us are students only. No problem. Okay, so shall I continue?
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in part two, uh,
Excuse me, sir. Sir, I
yes.
just want to tell you one thing that today was very rough day for me. So I couldn't concentrate on the first part like for 1 hour. So after the class, can I call you to clarify my doubts?
Yes, you may, no problem.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. No,
And
don't
sir,
worry.
one more thing, no? One more thing, sir. Since I'm new, let me know one thing. From where are you teaching? I don't know which portion you are teaching.
Okay, we are discussing house for Mr. Biswas, that is MEG-8 block 5. Okay.
MEG-8, Block
Yes,
5.
block 5, and it is written by B.S. Naipal, Sir B.S. Naipal. Is a
Sir,
Nobel laureate. Yes.
okay, I think so for the MEG, for we have to study for the first year, I think 1, 2, 4, and 5. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 only. In the 8 you are saying.
Yes. So you don't have MEG-8 in your syllabus, right?
Maybe in the
In your
second year
course.
it may be, I think so. But in the first year it is not there, I think so.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So it is up to you whether you want to continue or not. No problem.
Okay,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Next year I will have to see only, no?
Okay, Okay, let's continue.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Actually, the planner that we had received, that I had received, it was mentioned that today it was MEG 7 class. So that's why I had joined. I also have only MEG 7.
Okay, in that case, like I mean, you can leave the class and you can join your respective classes if you have the links for that. And if you don't, you can talk to the RC people and they will guide you
Okay.
regarding
Our MPG 7 classes has already done.
okay, 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 no problem, I understand.
O- Okay,
Okay,
sir.
we'll
Thank you.
come back to our discussion, right? So in part 2, Mr. Biswas leaves his wife and children and goes to capital city or port of Spain. He gets a job as a journalist, okay, at the Trinidad Sentinel, a paper known for its salacious stories and a lack of adherence to truth. I mean, it's kind of page 3. It's kind of kind of yellow journalism kind of thing, okay. Not exactly page 3, but it was kind of gossip, okay. This impresses the Tulsis, and Mr. Biswas eventually reconciles with Sama and returns to Hanuman house, where he receives an invitation from Mrs. Tulsi to move with her and son Awad to a home the family owns in Port of Spain. And Mr. Biswas accepts that invitation to move out to Port of Spain instead of staying in Hanuman house. After Mrs. Tulsi sends her son Awad to England to study medicine, she leaves the house of Port of Spain and Mr. Biswas begins to look at it as his own house. However, Seth decides to come and assert ownership by cutting down trees and ruining gardens to accommodate a shed for his fleet of trucks. This causes a rift in the family with Seth on one side and most of the Tulsis on the other. This prompts Mrs. Tulsi to once again relocate the extended family, this time to a large country estate known as Short Hills. Okay, so this is a story about this particular phase of life of uh, Mr. Biswas. Then in Port of Spain, what happens? This is a time of great tribulation for the Tulsi household. Mrs. Tulsi falls ill, and both her Pandit Hari and her sister Padma die. Additionally, World War II breaks out, and a lack of resources, including reliable transportation, to shuttle the myriad children and to and from school, makes Mr. Biswas desire a further change. He moves back to he moves back to Mrs. Tulsi's house in Port of Spain with his sister-in-law Chinta and her husband Gobind, and another sister-in-law and her husband that he mockingly refers to as the Turtles, since they are vain about having the books of W.C. Turtle, which they perceive as impressive. So there is a kind of unique relationship between all these sister-in-laws and this brother-in-laws in Tulsi family. Okay, like what we call in Hindi Sadu. Okay, so this Mr. Biswas had a unique relationship with all of them. Mr. Biswas is appointed by the newspaper as an investigator who determines whether individuals are worthy of endowments from the Deserving Destitutes Fund, which is set up to provide monetary relief to Trinidad's neediest citizens. So Mr. Biswas gets a new job. Anand shows a real promise for academics and places third in an island-wide academic contest and secures a college scholarship. So that is one of the kind of good things which happened in Mr. Biswas's life, that his son is doing well in academics. Then you have Mr. Biswas is offered and accepts a job with the newly formed community welfare department and is given a company car which the family enjoys immensely. So now the Mr. Unlucky or Mr. Panoti, you can say, I mean, in a very derogatory style, if I may use that word. uh, he is beginning to kind of enjoy his luck, and his luck is beginning to smile upon him. So he gets a new job, and he gets a new car, and he enjoys that stint of life. Later, Awad eventually returns from abroad with his medical degree, and Mrs. Tulsi promptly kicks out Mr. Biswas to refurbish the house and make room for Awad's arrival. When Awad returns, everyone is enamored with him, including Anand, who is particularly intrigued by his new interest in communism. After an incident in which Awad humiliates Anand and another in which Mr. Biswas feels disrespected by those with whom he shares a home, Mr. Biswas decides that he must leave the Tulsi household permanently. He finds a home for sale and borrows money from Ajodha to purchase it. Although he ends up paying more for it than it is worth, he only lives for 5 more years. And his children turn out well. Anand goes abroad to study, and Sabi wins a scholarship. In some ways, Mr. Biswas's efforts perhaps did not pay off for himself, but he was able to give his children a good life. So, how do you, kind of look at Mr. Biswas's journey to own his own house?
After all the circumstances, if anybody lives in his or her dream house, that is a big achievement for Mr. Viswasar, as per my opinion.
I mean, it was a kind of sense of achievement, sense
Yes,
of
sir.
fulfillment, sense of
Yes, sir.
identity, and to own his own house was a big thing for him. I guess it is a
Yes,
big,
sir.
big, big sort for all of us as well. In
Yes, sir.
today's world, if we are able to buy a piece of land and we, kind of build our own house, it is a different emotion altogether, and we enjoy and cherish every moment of that. I mean, in imagine about our parents, that when they were intending to have a kind of house of their own, mostly they do it or they did it in their kind of mm, when they were old. Okay, when they are mature, when they were like 50 or 60 or 50, something like that, in their 50s or 60s. But in today's world, even young guys and girls, they are getting married, doing jobs, and they are able to kind of build a house of their own with their own money, because of globalization, because of high salaries, because of high paying jobs. Not for everybody, but some of us are able to do that, and that in itself is a big, big job, big task, big achievement for everyone who is able to do that. So I believe that emotion of Mr. Biswas, whatever he gone through, whatever trouble he went through, actually worth studying and appreciating. The kind of kind of struggle, the kind of determination, the kind of perseverance he had, and the kind of determination, dogged spirit he had, that no, I'll have my own house no matter what, no matter in spite of the Tulsis, in spite of my in-laws family, and even though they will do so many things to humiliate me, but still I'll do my job. I will keep my promise, and I will die being a happy man, someone who has built his own house with his own money, with his own kind of hard work. So I mean, although house of Mr. Biswas was not kind of initially kind of celebrated or appreciated, but I believe now, if you look back, it's a kind of great body of work where you get to know these complex human emotions, and this complex interplay of power relation between Tulsi families and Tulsi family and mm, Mr. Biswas. Are you getting my point?
Yes, yes,
Yes, sir.
yes.
Okay. I'll go
And
back to
this yeah.
I'll go back to my slides once more. We'll discuss a bit about the symbols, the themes, and other aspects of the text. Then we'll
Yes.
discuss the questions if the time permit. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is it visible to you?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So symbols, house, house for Mr. Biswas. It is evident in the title, right? The house is both a literal and symbolic. Mr. Biswas seeks a house of his own
Okay.
as a literal structure, but also as a means by which to get away from the Tulsis. The house represents his own household and his own nuclear family without the meddling of the Tulsis. When he finally gets the house, even though he is no longer living, the house lives on as a symbol of life post Tulsis. And his children and Sama returned to it after his funeral instead of returning to Hanuman house. So that's a very good scene in the novel. That when Mr. Biswas dies, and instead of going to the Hanuman house, Sama and his children, her children, returns to the new house, newly built house, not to the original Hanuman house. So they also understood the love and affection of their kind of Mr. Biswas, and what it meant for him to own house. They also appreciated that struggle, that process. Sometimes people say, as far as success is concerned, is it about the end or is it about the means? But I believe the process itself is a very beautiful process where you will enjoy every bit of that, although it is troublesome, it is painful sometimes. But if you appreciate the process, definitely one day you will have the end, you will have the kind of the result. Okay, so that is what the
Okay.
house symbolizes for Mr. Biswas in House for Mr. Biswas.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to uh,
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
One more thing, you tell me. Overall, Mr. Bishwas, he was so much satisfied with his own work, no? Is it?
I mean, he was not satisfied per se. He was only interested in having a own house. Okay, and whatever he did, the process was all
Yeah, in
about
that process, in the
his
overall the process
destination.
which where he was going, was not satisfied. Overall, at the end, overall, is he was he satisfied or not?
I mean, of
The
course,
pro
towards the end, he was satisfied because he achieved his long cherished dream, having to have a own house. Okay.
Yeah, though his life of the journey, he struggled at a lot he struggled, but the finally he was satisfied when he looked back. He felt nostalgia, no?
Yes, yes. Before his death, he might have felt that, but we assume that he definitely felt good about his state of mind. And V.S. Naipaul has portrayed his character in such a way that you can only love him, you cannot hate him, because he has done everything in his capacity to achieve what he wanted to achieve. But if
Yeah,
you look at
so
the Tulsis, they always
yeah,
wanted to dominate all the son-in-laws, and they
Vishwas.
always wanted to dominate Mr. Vishwas. They always
Yeah,
wanted Mr. Vishwas to take care of their business.
yeah. Tulsi, she has different character, no?
Yes, yes.
And the Mr. Bishwas, he was the hard worker and he worked a lot and he was satisfied overall whatever he did, and with the something only he tried to do, and he moved forward, no?
Okay, okay. Thank you. Okay, please wait and let me complete. Then we'll have the discussion, right?
Okay, sir.
Yes. So, other symbols like the children, Mr. Biswas's children like Sabi and Anand in particular, are not only individuals in their own right, but they are an extension of and manifestation of Mr. Biswas's success. Mr. Biswas sees Anand's academic success in particular as a testament to his own intelligence and success. This extension is probably the reason why he is so elated at Anand's third place finish and outsigning of Govind and Chinta's son. I mean, it is very typical of every parent or father that when you see that your child is succeeding, then you also or take a lot of credit for that success. You also enjoy the success of your kids because you believe that maybe somehow down the line or in the past I have contributed something on my part to for the success of my kids. Okay. Then another one, the prefect was a British made Ford which might today be described as a compact car, though it is a small car without much kind of you know kind of modern techniques and modern accessories and something like that. That is why it is criticized by Govind, who is a lively driver. It is still a significant symbol that speaks to Mr. Biswas's increased economic prosperity. His immediate family is clearly impressed with it, especially since it is brand new, and they too see it as a symbol of how Mr. Biswas has finally arrived. So these are the symbols we should look at. I mean, there might be many more. I have just highlighted two or three, and if possible, if you find more, you can share that as well in the WhatsApp group. Then I will go to the themes. Okay, poverty versus abundance. So you look at Tulsi's and you look at Mr. Viswas. These two contrasts are
Excuse me, sir.
presented. Yes,
Sir, what is the meaning of abundance?
abundance means having too much of something or having plenty. Okay,
Okay, wealthy. That means
wealthy.
lot of
Yes, something
money.
like that. Yes, yes, yes. These two contrasts are presented throughout the novel. While the island of Trinidad is abundant in its lush fields of sugarcane, there is a great poverty experienced by its inhabitants. The house in which Mr. Biswas lives with his mother on Tara's property is described as a hut, as are many of the structures on the island. Furthermore, there is a contrast between the Tulsis, Tara, and Ajodha, who Mr. Biswas perceives to have much, and their lack of desire to give generously to others. Some critical interpretations sorry, see the Tulsis as a representation of the British colonizers who live in abundance while exploiting the agricultural resources of the island, leaving its inhabitants in poverty. You look at Mrs. Tulsi, you look at all the Tulsi family members, even not exactly Sama, but others to certain extent, they behave differently to Mr. Biswas. And they know that Mr. Biswas doesn't have much money and he has to depend on us. Yet, they had a lot of, kind of money. They could have helped Mr. Biswas in many ways, more than one, where they could have helped him to buy a land or buy a house of his own. But they didn't bother about that. It was Mr. Biswas who himself took it upon himself that no, I will do it for myself, I'll do it for my child, I'll do it for my wife, I'll not care about the world. Okay. Then the next theme is determination or perseverance. Perseverance, is reflected or portrayed, kind of described in a very beautiful manner in Mr. Biswas's character. I mean, Mr. Biswas is nothing if not determined. He overcomes many tribulations and trials in order to finally purchase a home and reclaim his family from the Tulsis. He fights against the Tulsis' seeming lack of desire to help him achieve his dream. His own depression and self doubt, and his wife's criticism to eventually succeed in his goal. Nepal, whose own life experiences mimic those in certain members of the Biswas family, desires to show that even those born into suboptimal circumstances have the ability to rise above them if they have a true desire to continue on a path towards a goal. Okay, so if you are determined, if you have enough perseverance, if you have conviction, if you have the courage, no matter what you aim, one day you will achieve. And you need to really, you need to be ready to ready to be willing to work harder than what you have been doing, and you have to give your best shot. Only then your perseverance will be rewarded with some kind of reward. Otherwise, there will be a question mark. Then the next theme is family. Family is a constant throughout the novel. Mr. Biswas can never escape his family. They interact with him over his lifetime in various ways and offer both support and constant, kind of guidance at times. Still, the central theme as it pertains to family is that it is inescapable. Okay, sorry, I just kind of slipped that. The central theme of this particular kind of novel, that you cannot escape your family. You cannot just kind of leave your family all of a sudden, and you cannot feel that you are not connected. You cannot feel that you are isolated. Okay, you have to take your family forward. You have to take care of your family, your wife, your sons, your daughters, and your other family members. And look at how the Tulsi family is treating their own, how they are behaving with Mr. Biswas as if he is an outsider. He doesn't belong to their family, although he is a son-in-law. But they behave differently to Shama, and they behave differently with Mr. Biswas. The Tulsis are always a part of the Biswas's family life, even after Mr. Biswas's death. However, they come to play a different role in that nuclear family unit, which is eventually able to stand on its own without the constant interference of the extended family. I mean, that is Tulsi family. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me stop my presentation. Let me go back to something else. Just give me a second. Yes. Okay, do you have the questions with you? The past questions with you? Can somebody read out one question from the list of questions given, or the PDF file which was shared by Salman?
Personally understood the story, sir, myself.
Okay, no problem.
And sir, one more thing, just I want to ask you, apart from this, your syllabus, this is my personal problem only.
Okay,
Sir, I'm not getting my identity card. So how I have to do and what I have to do? I'm not getting. I'm not able to download from the net also.
okay. You belong to which RC?
Ranchi, sir.
Okay, you talk to your RC of authorities. They'll help you, right?
I talked with them. They were saying we'll send you in your mail, but still I have not gotten. So
I mean, I'm sorry, I cannot help you in that, but you should talk to your RC people on phone, or you call email them again, or you possibly visit their office. I guess they will help you.
I had visited you, and they have said you give me your mail. I will send you. They have said, but still I have not got that. And again for the every time we'll have to go there because once we make phone call, they won't receive also. No.
Okay, okay, I understand your problem, but I'm sorry.
Physically, we'll have to leaving all those work. Physically, we go, then ask, then again, again and again.
Okay, okay, okay. I'm sorry for asking you this. I mean, but we'll discuss that issue once the class is over. You can talk to me, no problem. But I should inform you that I belong to RC Bhubaneswar and I'm an academic counselor. I do not have any jurisdiction over RC Ranchi. And if you want to have your iCard, please talk to them again, and have patience. I guess they will help you. If not
Yeah,
today,
that
they
is
will help
there.
you
Just
pretty soon.
I'm sharing it to you because just you can help me since you can share to them the words you can reach to them that a particular students when he was asking something like that, just simply I'm saying to you.
I
Hmm.
understand, but I do not belong to your RC, so they will not pay any attention to my voice. Had
Okay.
you been a student of our RC, then I would have called our superiors and talked to them, and they might have helped you. Okay, but
Okay,
nevertheless, I'll try in different channels if it is possible. You just uh, call me or text me once this class is over, or
yeah, I have
possibly
messaged, sir. I have messaged. I have written the message and I have sent to you.
okay, no
Here
problem.
also.
I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yes. Uh, should I discuss few more themes for your understanding, ladies and gentlemen? Supriya, you want to say something? You have raised your hand.
Yes, sir. Actually, you said na the previous question. There is I just searched the December 2021 and June 2022. The same question. It is same question or what, sir? I just want to ask you.
Okay, please read out.
Sir, in December 2021, the question is written: Examine a house for Mr. Biswas as a novel of diaspora. And in June 22, it is written that is the house on Sikkim Street the ideal house for Mr. Biswas? Discuss. So, is these two questions are similar or what?
Sorry, I couldn't listen to your earlier part. Please repeat that once more.
Yes, sir. Sir, in December 2021, the question is examine a house for Mr. Biswas as a novel of the diaspora.
Okay.
Okay. And in June 2022, it is written that is the house on the Sikkim Street the ideal house for Mr. Biswas? Discuss.
Okay. No, they are not the same question. They are different. Okay.
Uh,
In the first one, it's about you will have to talk about diaspora like last few classes I had given you a kind of bit of detail about diaspora. You have to discuss what is the diaspora and who are part of diaspora and how this novel can be called as a diasporic novel. And you will also talk about kind of post colonial setting. So that will answer your first question. And the second question was like, is it an ideal house for Mr. Biswas, right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, which one? The final house in which he was like staying, or which one
The
you are
house
highlighting?
which was situated in Sikkim Street.
Okay. So you will have to give a justification to your answer. I mean, to through your answer that why you consider that house is ideal or not. I mean, you can always say the last one when he he bought the last house and it was out of his own money and out of his own interest, and he felt that. This is my identity, this is my agency, this is my selfhood, this is my kind of recognition, and I believe that this is the best I could achieve in this life. Okay, so you have to go through the text. That's why I told you that you have to go through certain text once at least to understand kind of complexities of this particular questions. Okay,
Sir,
before
these
I
types of questions that we have to write down about the history, like before bought the house, what happened with
Yes, you
Mr.
have to
Biswas.
write down how his process of owning a house started and when it started and what are the circumstances under which he actually what he went through, what kind of suffering, what kind of kind of personal pain and trouble he has undertaken to actually reach at this particular point. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so you have to mention all these things with examples from the text, with certain dialogues, certain quotations. Okay, and you also have to
Yes,
give the background story to the evaluator to convince him that okay, you have actually studied the stuff and now you know what you are doing. Okay, just
yes, sir.
wait, hold your thoughts. Okay, we are going to discuss something else about other possible themes like you know uh, something like independence versus belonging. Okay, and this is very important. Should I discuss a bit about that?
Yes, sir, you can discuss about it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, in this context, I also should tell you that most of us do commit this English mistake or grammatical mistake. You can say that when we say discuss, we shouldn't say about. But even I'm saying this, and even many of my colleagues are doing this. And each time I ask my students not to do that, but sometimes it happens. When you discuss something, it is definitely about something. You don't have to say let's discuss about. Okay, it should be like let's discuss. But as a bad habit, we keep doing this, and I think all of us should avoid that.
Yes, sir, it's like with speed, with the flow. In the flow, I made a mistake with that.
No, no, no.
I need
It's
to
even
correct
I
it.
did that. So that's why I told you that students and teacher alike, all of us are doing kind of invariably a lot of mistakes in our communication. But it is okay as long as we communicate properly and we are understandable to others. It's fine. But as far as teachers are concerned, they should minimize their mistakes because for us, the benchmark should be little higher. Okay. Let's move on. So, V.S. Naipaul's novel, A House for Mr. Biswas, traces the protagonist's life in Trinidad from birth to death, chronicling his journey through temporary homes, unsatisfying jobs, temporary homes, the Tulsi house, and there are many places before he actually owns one. Unsatisfying jobs, he was a painter. Okay, he was a journalist. He was a kind of overseer in sugarcane field. He was doing many jobs and frustrating family relationships before he finds an eventual sense of freedom in his own home. This quest to find independence from family, from fate, is the crux of Mr. Biswas's struggles and his need to find a sense of belonging in a place and social group drives his quest for his own house. Yet, these two impulses to belong but also to live independently seem to pull in opposite directions. The first is towards his family and the second away from it. Surprisingly, Mr. Biswas manages to feel fully dependent when he is utterly alone and independent when he relies on others. Okay, so you have to do a kind of comparative analysis between independence and belonging. Mr. Biswas, or like many of us, we want to be independent uh, as an individual, but we also want to belong to a certain family, certain tradition, certain culture, certain values, and that is the dichotomy. Okay, mr biswas Mr. Biswas's quest for a house reflects his search for belonging and independence. Throughout the whole book, lacking any better option, he lives wherever he is allowed to go, almost always with relatives, employers, or even relatives that employ him. However, he almost invariably hates the people he lives with and the places where he lives. I mean, if you live with the Tulsis, you will definitely hate them because their idea of life is different than your ideas of life. So definitely there will be scorn, there will be hatred, there will be anger. So that those emotions will be there, right?
Yes, sir.
Uh, he almost feels that he doesn't belong and resenting his dependence on others, which leads him to try and find a house of his own. The house where Mr. Biswas is born end up sold to a neighbor and demonized for the construction of oil drilling infrastructure. His original place of belonging, the only house to which he had some right, is destroyed and would have made his family extraordinarily wealthy had they stayed. After this loss, he bounces among other people's houses for his whole life, at least 11 places altogether, none of which he belongs in, because none of them belong to him. He always feels a burning desire to turn from a visitor into a dweller by building a home for himself, creating a place where he both belongs and can live independently from others. In particular, at Hanuman House, the Tulsi's family home, where many son in laws live with Samaj sisters. I mean, all the son in laws and all the daughters are staying together of Mrs. Tulsi. Mr. Biswas becomes ostracized for his surliness and explosive arguments with other family members. Despite the Tulsi's numerous gestures of goodwill during his initial stay in Hanuman house, he never feels truly part of the family and resents that fact that he must rely on other people. Although a house of his own symbolizes the unity of independence and belonging, the tension between these two drives tears Mr. Biswas apart, fueling his horrible mood swings, cruelty toward his family, and failure to achieve either independence or belonging. When he lives in the barracks at Greenwell, Mr. Biswas falls into a deep depression. He gets to live a solitary life independent of his family, but fears the laborers around him. Indeed, he realizes that he fears and resents all people whom he sees as capable of finding the freedom and community he has never had, and finds little pleasure living on his own. So, there are long discussions about this particular belonging and independence. I'll send you some PDF files for your reference, and you can go through that. I guess you will have a better and clearer understanding of this concept of belongingness and independence. But let's, yes, Supriya, you wanted to say something?
Sir, at the end, only 5 minutes, please discuss the previous year's question. There is one question I want to ask you.
Yes.
Should I read it, sir, now?
Okay, read it now. We'll discuss later, right?
Yeah, you will discuss later, sir. It's okay.
Yes.
Can I read?
Yes, yes.
Just a second. Yes, sir. Here it is written that comment on B.S. Naipaul's use of irony and humor in a house for Mr. Biswas. Sir, this question, how we will write it, can you please discuss at the end of the class?
Yes, I will. If
Thank you,
time doesn't permit, I will specifically make sure that I'll send you a PDF note on this particular question, and don't
sir.
worry, I'll make sure that you get that. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, no problem. Now we'll move on to the next theme, that is social status and hierarchy. I hope you know what is social status and what is hierarchy, but you have to discuss this particular theme in the context of Tulsi family. Despite, or perhaps because of, his birth to illiterate peasants in a mud hut in rural Trinidad, Mr. Biswas is obsessed with social hierarchy and constantly worries about how he fits into it. His demands for respect and attention usually fall on deaf ears, especially within the Tulsi family. But his career as a journalist and government welfare agent in Port of Spain finally elevate him the status he has sought. Despite achieving success through hard work, self improvement, however, Mr. Biswas doesn't abandon his faith in outward symbols of status, which ultimately contributes to his downfall. Naples shows how the temptation to conspicuously prove one's wealth and success can undermine one's ability to actually achieve them. Mr. Biswas is obsessed with winning respect and attention from the people around him. and this becomes his primary metric for self worth. As an infant, Mr. Biswas received luxurious oil massages from his mother. Afterwards, Mr. Biswas's importance steadily diminished as his parents began viewing him as a liability, and nobody ever offered him the same level of care or affection. Because of this Pandit. From the moment of his birth, the protagonist is only ever called Mr. Biswas, and few other characters get this honor of being called by his last name. His desire for respect and sense of social entitlement precede and overshadow his actual status. Are you following what I'm trying to tell you?
Sir, the last line I couldn't get you. That can you
The
please
last
repeat to
line
us?
says,
Yes, sir.
I mean, Mr. Biswas was always after, respect, and he thought, I command a lot of respect and I should demand a lot of respect, and I am entitled to be respected for everybody around in my family or in our society. But that doesn't happen always. You have to
Yes, sir.
swallow the bitter pill sometimes. I mean, look, mm, let's say I'm teaching in a university, and whether I teach well or not, that's a separate debate. But I cannot force the students to like me or to appreciate me. They will like me or appreciate me if they find some substance in whatever I'm saying or whatever I'm teaching, but without giving them concrete, actionable, or kind of substance in as far as teaching is concerned. Why should they will be bothered about me being respected or not? So respect is something which will come naturally to you if you do something respectable. But Mr. Biswas, since his childhood, he was always after, kind of people should respect me, and they should talk to me with a sense of a lot of respect. It doesn't happen that way, and I guess that is one of his follies. That is one of his problems in his character. If you will write a character appreciation of Mr. Biswas, you have to mention all these things. How his childhood was shaped by the Pandit's prophecy, and how he was termed unlucky, and how his luck kind of let him down many occasions, and how his indefinite or continuous kind of search for identity and respect from others, or let's say approval from others, impacted his life. So you have to mention all these things. Should I move on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. So Mr. Biswas's insistence on respect reflects his desire to find legitimacy in the society that surrounds him, not only in his own family. He was continually frustrated with the Tulsis because they did not acknowledge his presence of the or the value of his labor. Indeed, Owad's respect for Mr. Biswas's job was enough to engender a friendship between the two. At Greenwell, Mr. Biswas was excited when he became a driver at the sugar estate because the workers initially looked up to him, particularly when he brought out the money bags to pay them on Saturdays. So there are a lot of other things which you could go through regarding this social status and hierarchy of Mr. Biswas. We'll go to another concept called education, work, and language. Okay,
Yes, sir.
just a sec. Okay. So, education, work, and language as a theme in uh, House for Mr. Biswas. You can just club it to education or language. Okay. Whether he realizes it or not, Mr. Biswas's ambitions and successes are structured around his pursuit of language. He becomes a sign painter because he loves the shape of letters, and a journalist because he loved reading newspapers that lined the walls in Greenville. Although Pandit Sitaram declared Mr. Biswas unlucky upon his birth, he did encounter one great stroke of luck in life, his literacy, which not only gave his children a meaningful chance at earning the economic independence he never fully achieved, but also against all odds, allowed him to find a vocation. Mr. Biswas also strove to write literature, a dream he never realized, but for which his son Anand seems well poised. If work is the path to well being in a post colonial state, education is the most important step towards work that is meaningful, dignified, and lucrative enough to enable upward economic mobility. So, work, his education, his language, his love for letters helped him in the job of painting. His love for reading newspaper helped him in during his stint as a journalist, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
we have already discussed gender and family. Okay, we have also discussed colonialism, operation, and escape. Okay, but I would like to add a few things about colonialism for your benefit. A House for Mr. Biswas was published during the ill-fated West Indies Federation, a year before Trinidad and Tobago became an independent nation, but set in the earlier years of the 20th century. Naples' portrait of Trinidad thus reflects a post slavery colonial society in the midst of an economic and social transition towards the post colonial state. The island is highly stratified, and different groups' animosity for one another on the basis of race, religion, class, literacy, and the urban rural divide, which demonstrates how Trinidad's colonized people internalized imperial hierarchies. Yet, Naples is also notorious for its deep appreciation of the opportunities and the empire paradoxically giving colonized peoples. And this ambivalent pride is on full display in this novel. The source of Trinidad's problems also appears as its solution. By studying in England, speaking English, helping out the Americans, Trinidadians become wealthy and self-sufficient. So there is a kind of connection between colonialism and how colonialism became a solution for Trinidad people. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Uh, as far as Supriya's question is concerned about how humor and irony plays a role in House for Mr. Biswas, I would say the following. If you want to, you can make notes, or if you don't want to do it, I'll send you a PDF file concerning this. You can read that, and you can have your own sense of judgment and your own sense of appreciation. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So humor and irony in Mr. Biswas. So humor, when you talk of humor, it's more about like character portrayal in a comical way, or in a sense of kind of funny way. You know, though there are characters including Mr. Biswas are far more or less comic. Tara puts on heavy ornaments. Tara, you understand Tara, Supriya?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Tara and Ajmat, auntie and uncle.
And her ornaments are led with silver bangles, and portrayal of Tara is comical. And there is another Ghani, another minor character called the solicitor, is always found in the midst of dusty books. Lal, again, Lal the teacher behaves in a very funny manner with his students. Alec, there is another boy, amuses us by his pranks. Pandit Joyram makes us laugh us through the contradictions in his character. The novelist describes the solicitor's clerk as tout, crook, Nazi, and even as communist. Tulsi is also a comic character. She faints often. At the time, her daughters take her to the Rose Room and serve under the general supervision of Padma and Susila. Tulsi's sons-in-law are also comic figure. Gobind attacks his food like a glutton. Hari is a comic figure who passes a lot of time in the toilet and keeps other waiting eagerly outside. The gloomy predictions about Biswas's future are very funny because of these individuals around him. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then other comical situations like Ragha Raghu, okay, the father of Mr. Biswas, drowns in the village pond while trying to rescue his own son, who is actually safe and sound, hiding under his father's bed at home. Biswas takes his son Anand to cinema, but he has not enough money to purchase full tickets. So both of them return home without seeing the movie. These are humorous situations provide these are the humorous situations in House for Mr. Viswas, which provide us laughter. Okay, and you can
Yes,
include wit and sarcasm as well. Okay, when witty remarks like Mr. Viswas is the wittiest character in the novel. He addresses Tulsi's sons as little gods and describes Tulsi as an old hen, also as sea fox. Okay, she described Hanuman house as the zoo and Sama's two brothers as monkey. Sama also mocks at Biswas by saying that when he first came to Hanuman house, he had no more clothes that could be hung a single nail. Okay, so that was wit and sarcasm
yes,
and
sir.
comedy. Okay, and you can use irony as well, like Biswas rebels against Tulsi's dictatorship, call the members of her family bloodsuckers. Their irony is that he leaves Hanuman house several times, but he has to come back again because nothing belongs to him. Every time he tries to stand on his own legs, but irony pushes him down. In these efforts to achieve his goal, he looks absurd. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So these are few things you can highlight in your answers if you want to write something about House for Mr. Biswas. Okay.
Yes, sir. Now I
And
am getting the point why irony is described in this question.
okay, so I think you know uh, this much I could package for today as far as House for Mr. Biswas is concerned. But tomorrow is going to be a tough day for all of us because there will be Derek Walcott and Kamau Brathwaite, Caribbean poets, and we have to read the poems first. And then it is not possible in a 2 hour class to discuss all the poems line by line, but we have to read some poems, get a sense of the language and other elements of the poem. Then we'll discuss a general discussion on Derek Walcott's poems and Kamau Brathwaite's poems. Then it will be kind of our attempt to have a sense of understanding what the Caribbean poems represent. Okay, so I would request all of you to brace for tomorrow, and let's see how it goes. And I should thank all of you for your patient hearing. Supriya, Barsa, Chavi, Salman, Amrita, Bhagyasri, Nahida, all of you. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much, sir.
So till we meet again, uh, I'm signing off. I request our RC authorities, Tapan sir, to close the recordings and I mean stop the recordings. Let's see how it goes, and get ready for tomorrow. And whatever information you could get, from internet related to Kamau Brathwaite or Derek Walcott, please go through that. That might help you to have a better understanding of the poems because. Mind you, in a 2 hour class, it's not possible to discuss poems line by line. But I'll give you a general sense of their writing style, their approach, and their kind of style of poetry. Okay,
Thank you so much, sir.
thank you. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Amrita is writing that please share the WhatsApp group link. Salman, if you could be kind enough to
Yes, yes, sir.
share
I
the
will
link.
send. I would send it, sir.
Yeah.
I guess Amrita is also from MEG-8, just to confirm.
Okay, Amrita,
Because
are you? I mean, do you have MEG-8 in your papers? Yes. She says yes. No problem.
okay,
You
okay,
can
okay.
share the
I
link.
will send in the chat, sir. Now only I am sending.
Yes. Thank you all once more.